It says we're live, Sip.
Wow. Here we go. Here we go.
Welcome in, Husker Extra Live. It's the Journal Star crew. I'm Parker. There's Stephen M. Sipple. It is Wednesday. It's a special Wednesday edition of Husker Extra Live. We're normally on Thursdays, but Sip, I just sort of figured that maybe people would have other things going on tomorrow night, like being in a turkey-induced tryptophan coma.
What's a tryptophan coma?
Well, isn't tryptophan's like the thing that's like the chemical in turkey that is what makes people drowsy?
Oh.
You always hear the you fall asleep after you eat Thanksgiving dinner. That's there's actually like a chemical component to that.
I would like to get in that coma tomorrow. Thank you.
What are you doing? What are you doing what are you and Trix doing for Thanksgiving dinner?
It's going to be me and Trix and Alex, grandson Alex, and his mom, and actually granddaughter Anna too. So just us. That's it.
What's on the menu? What are you cooking?
Trix?
What are you cooking, Sip?
No, I'm not doing anything. Trix is probably working in the kitchen right now, and it'll be the normal. But she does it really well. Just the standard. She knows what I like. I want a lot of white meat with a lot of cranberry and a lot of mashed potatoes and a lot of stuffing and corn. Mm-hmm. I'm not big on like the big pie dude stuff, but
yeah,
I'll take some whipped cream.
I'm making pie tomorrow, Sipple.
Hey, you do make stuff. What are you making?
Oh, we're doing ham. We're gonna do ham.
I know, but what are you making?
My big project tomorrow is I'm making an apple pie virtually from scratch.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
You're gonna make
I'll FaceTime me if you want.
Yeah, I bet you'll be good at it.
It worked last year. I bought a pie crust last year. I decided this year I would take it one step further. So
you're gonna make the crust.
Yeah, not fully from scratch. I have like a crust mix, but you got to knead it, get it in the right position, let it rise for a while, and then get
Man, Parker, that's impressive.
We're gonna see. Well, there's every opportunity that I'm gonna royally mess it up and then go to Hy-Vee and buy a pie crust. So we'll see what happens.
Well, but you're trying.
Yeah, you're gonna give it the old college try. Nebraska segue. Gonna give it the old college try on Friday against Iowa. 2-touchdown underdog going to Iowa City.
Is that what it is right now?
Yeah, I think it was 13.5 or 14.
Yeah, we got around.
Yeah, we got questions, Sipple. So let's just get right into it. What do you think about that?
That's the way to do it.
Great. Did
you say Tom Dinsdale? Did you talk about Dinsdale's?
Well, actually, I might not have, Sipple. We just got right into Thanksgiving. That's a great – thank you for reminding me. This Husker Extra Live presented, as always, by Tom Dinsdale Hyundai of Grand Island. We really appreciate it. Appreciate the sponsorship on that front. If you got car needs, especially if you want a Hyundai, Tom Dinsdale Hyundai in Grand Island. Place to be. Matt says, happy Thanksgiving, Parker and Stephen. Thanks, Matt. That's nice of you.
Thank you, and back at you.
Yeah. What's up, guys? Thank you. Diane says, yep, lots of white meat, taters, and gravy. Can't go wrong with that.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Diane, what's up, guys? Huskers are going to play well.
You know what? I wouldn't be surprised about that. I think they should feel like they have a lot to prove now. They've pretty much been raked over the coals by the media and on message boards and such, talk radio. So they should have a bit of a chip on their shoulder. I would say this, Diane, they're going to have to play well really well to win. Parker, they would have to play well probably in all three phases, which, by the way, we haven't seen this year. We haven't seen them do it. So, Diane, it would require a first. Nebraska to play well offensively, defensively, and special teams. I don't think they could win without doing that.
Brett says, this question off YouTube, just like Diane, do you agree that Adrian Martinez lost his mojo as soon as he started getting erratic snaps at the beginning of last season? Why hasn't Frost made a change at center? Stubbornness.
Well, I don't know if it's that simple. I mean, I think we tried to do that with Adrian and we'll just call it his situation. Parker, I feel like we tried to simplify it a little too much.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it, though. I mean, I think do I think the snaps are a contributing factor? Absolutely. I think they're a contributing factor. I think they have to be. I mean, it messes on a very simple level. It messes with the timing of that play. In a more complex sense, I think if that quarterback has that in the back of his mind that that's an issue, well, Parker, that's just one more issue for the quarterback to deal with, and he has a lot on his plate at Nebraska.
Yeah, I think you saw some of the impact of the snaps, even with Luke McCaffrey in the game against, I think it was against Penn State, actually. There was a play, it was a 1st and goal play, and it looked like it was zone read, and it looked like McCaffrey had a pretty simple pull read. He would have walked into the end zone, but the snap was off, and he sort of just reached it out to get it to the running back, and it went for a negative. And that's the kind of play where they probably, I mean, I'm guessing that they, we hear the quarterbacks talk about how they're tuned up to do certain things in certain situations. So it's a read play, but if you don't know, it's a give. Or if you get something weird, just give it, that sort of thing. And so to me, every time you see a bad snap in a run play, it's always a give, And so when you have that, I mean, if that continues, it's going to continue to throw off rhythm. Now, was that all of what plagued Adrian Martinez? No, he played through injury last year, and he clearly lost some confidence somewhere along the way, or at least it looked like that from the outside. He talked about that some in the offseason. And then I guess to the second part of the question, Brett's question, they've made the change at center the past couple of games. Matt Farniok played the whole way against Northwestern, and he played half of the game against Illinois. Frost did say today, though, in his last chat with reporters before they get ready to go to Iowa City tomorrow, that he thought Cam Jurgens looked really good at center this week, and that Farniok had been taking snaps during the week at guard. So they think Cam Jurgens is healthy enough to play center, and they've still got confidence in him to get the job done in the middle.
So Farniok will play right guard.
Yes. Yep. That would be. Yep. Then they'd go back to the original starting 5, which would be Hymas at left tackle, probably Ethan Piper still at left guard. Although if Farniok's playing right guard, then maybe Piper and Bo Wilson can go back to rotating, which they did week 1. Jurgens in the middle, and then Farniok and Benhart on the right side.
What you're seeing, Parker, is Scott Frost. I think what you're seeing is him thinking big picture with Jurgens. Jurgens is a sophomore. I think in Frost's mind, he still believes this is a special player, and he's going to stick with him. He's going to have his back. And this is, they're in rough waters, so to speak. And he's saying, I'm sticking with you. And I think there's something to be said for that. If Frost really believes in his heart, in his mind, that Jurgens is a future star, then it's probably incumbent on him to let him work through these problems, right?
Yeah. I think you're right. I mean, and that's sort of, I think that they're having those conversations all over the roster, and that's not what fans always want to hear. I mean, you would hope, obviously, and Cam Jurgens talked about it a couple weeks ago. It's got to be automatic. It's got to be, what did he say? It's like kicking an extra point. You got to just not even think about it. It's got to always be on the money. And we've seen that when Matt Farniok's been in at center. It can be done, obviously. Yeah. It's just like saying that a young wide receiver's got to run the right route on every play. I mean, that sounds very simple in concept, and yet we've seen that be a struggle at times. So there's a lot going on. Nebraska has a lot of questions to answer offensively, and after last week against Illinois, they've got questions to answer defensively too, which I think is part of the reason why it seems like a lot of fans have a little bit of a sense of foreboding about this matchup coming up with Iowa on Friday.
You were struck by something Levi Falk said about the receiver position not necessarily being an easy one to learn.
Yeah, you hear a lot, and I've never played wide receiver, so I don't know, but you hear a lot that if there's a position that a young guy can come in and play at and get time at early, that receiver sort of on that list. And Levi Falk, who is a senior, a grad transfer from South Dakota, who played pretty well, I thought, against Illinois, and I think is going to be a bigger part of the offense going forward. He said he just brought it up on his own on Tuesday that no, it's not easy. In fact, he said there's a lot of nuance in it, especially in this offense. And he talked about he said, you've got to run routes different ways against different coverages. There's different options against different coverages and checks and so on and so forth. He's like, you don't just line. Basically, what he was saying was, you don't just get the play and say, okay, I'm running a slant, and then you go run a slant. I mean, there's a lot of adjustments. And Austin Allen talked in similar terms last week about that this offense isn't necessarily easy to play in. And that's interesting because certainly the way it looks on the field would fall in line with that. And at the same time, we've seen young players pick it up. Wandale Robinson played multiple positions last year as a true freshman. Oliver Martin wasn't eligible until 2 weeks ago, and he's playing quite a bit. And this offense has been described as being quarterback friendly and sort of easy to play in and to be productive in. So they're just sort of, I don't know, they're just sort of stuck in the mud offensively recently.
Yeah, they are. I don't know. Is it going too far to say disarray?
You're the columnist. You can say whatever you want.
Well,
disarray sounds like a good word to me.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what they're ranked nationally. Well, I do know because it's sitting right in front of me. They are ranked 83rd nationally in total offense, which doesn't always tell you the whole story because you know what I was ranked, Parker?
What?
84th. And you wouldn't say that I was in disarray offensively. In fact, you know what an interesting stat is? One of the most misleading stats of the week?
What?
Nebraska is averaging 198.8 yards rushing per game.
Per game, yeah.
Iowa is averaging 180. But who would you say is the better rushing team?
Right. Well,
what is the nuance there, Parker? Go ahead.
Well, the nuance, and I wrote about this yesterday. It is in part that, first of all, Iowa's a lot more efficient. I mean, their per carry basis is better. I would bet, I don't have it right in front of me, but I would bet that offensively overall, their per play efficiency, yards per play, is better than Nebraska's. But Nebraska just runs a lot more plays than Iowa does, and so that turns into production. Then there's all kinds of nuance after that. I mean, one for sure is that Nebraska is extremely reliant on the quarterbacks in the run game, which is fine. I mean, yards are yards. If your quarterbacks are the ones getting you running yards, that, like, in and of itself, that's not necessarily a problem.
Oh, it can be.
But what is a problem is if you can't keep them healthy.
Right. There's that, but that doesn't help you in the play action game, right?
True. Also true. Yeah. I mean,
Iowa does a lot of play.
Yeah, and I try. Yeah, it does, and that helps. I mean, that running game helps open up. Now, there's some things about Nebraska's quarterback run game that help. I mean, it's not like it's all scramble. I mean, you've got to respect the quarterback pulling the ball in the read game. And I've seen some fans dog on the quarterback draw, but I counted when I went back and watched the Illinois game. I saw 5 plays that look like design quarterback draw, and they went for 56 yards. So, those can be productive parts of your offense, but Nebraska's really reliant on it right now. I mean, Nebraska's quarterbacks have 52% of the team's rushing attempts and 65% of Nebraska's rushing yardage so far is McCaffrey and Martinez. That's just not
write that somewhere. Write that somewhere, Parker.
Yeah, it was in the Journal Star today. If you,
sorry. All right, I'll go back and read that.
I did a breakdown of the rushing numbers and just how, it was almost exactly reversed last year. Running backs accounted for 65-35 split running back quarterback last year. It's just reversed to the quarterback this year. You all right there? Did you choke on the water?
Yes, I'm kind of just had water. Just water.
Got it. Jeffrey asks, did Luke McCaffrey get recruited because Frost promised him to play quarterback when other schools wanted him to play other spots?
I don't think so. I mean, that sounds like some sort of theory, but I've never heard that explicitly.
part of what Luke liked about Nebraska was that they were going to give him a chance to play quarterback. I mean, some schools wanted him as an athlete or a receiver, but that's not a conversation that's unique to Luke McCaffrey, Jeff. I mean, there's players all over the place. I mean, Nebraska's recruiting guys in this recruiting class who some people like as a defensive back and some like as a running back. And there's a couple linemen actually that they're still recruiting who they like as a defensive lineman, where other people like him as an offensive lineman. You know, that stuff happens a lot. So, but yeah, McCaffrey knew he was going to get a chance to play quarterback here. But, you know, Sipple, I've been meaning to bring this up with you and I haven't, but this seems like as good a time as any. Do you remember this offseason when you said that everyone would be in love with McCaffrey until the first time he threw an interception or made a bad decision on the field?
It's really predictable, right?
Yeah.
That's what's happened a little to a certain extent, right?
Yeah. Do you think it's an overreaction to essentially one bad outing, or to what his limitations might be at this point in his career in terms of throwing the ball down the field?
Well, I'll tell you what, Parker. It seems like it's a complex discussion. Like, okay, yeah. in that, what if Frost said the words this week that McCaffrey is the future at Nebraska at that position, right?
Yeah.
Now, what that suggests to me, just that alone, now that's not all he said.
Right.
Because he went on to say, but Adrian has practiced well and et cetera. But the future part of that is, now that suggests that Frost maybe would want to and even should say, okay, Luke, this is your show. Go beat Iowa, and let him work through being a young quarterback and all that entails, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now that what's that picture look like? That's where the discussion gets really interesting and involved. You want to give him rope, but you can't. It has to look like there's progress, and it has to look like there's a lot of potential there. Now, against Illinois, I don't think you can come out of the Illinois game saying, oh, yeah, he's young and he's green, but there's a lot there. Right. I don't know that I'd say that right now.
Yeah.
I need more. I need more. And that's now Frost has got to decide, is he gonna push forward with that sort of thinking, or does he say, you know, the guy who gives us the best chance to win on this particular Saturday is Adrian Martinez?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's an interesting conversation because with Luke, I mean, it's the number of times that Frost himself has brought up the first play of the game and categorized it. I mean, today he said it was a bad decision, and then he stopped himself and said it was a really bad decision to throw that ball that then was ruled a fumble. And so, like, I think that the conversation would be different almost, or maybe the feeling, we'll see who starts, but once it becomes a combination of, yeah, right now he doesn't throw the ball down the field particularly well. Once you add, and I'm not 100% certain that he's going to make the right decision with the ball, then it's a different conversation than just, yeah, he's got some limitations as a passer, but we like, you know, I mean, against Penn State, he completed 65% of his passes, and he didn't do anything dumb with the ball. You know, he didn't make the big mistake. And I think it's hard you can't ask a young guy to just not make mistakes, but I wonder if that more than what the downfield passing attempts look like would be a reason why you could see Adrian Martinez on Friday.
Right. I guess to sum it up, Parker, I don't think that you would say McCaffrey was convincing. He wasn't convincing enough in my mind to nail down that job for this week and going forward. Now let's see what that conversation will evolve.
Dan says, love the show. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan.
Adam says, is this really Nebraska football anymore that we're seeing?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's Nebraska football, and it's, you know, and it's sort of, I mean, this is a building project that Frost has undertaken, and it isn't going as planned. Okay, that's what it is. He undertook a very difficult project, and you would say right now it's not going as planned. Now he's the foreman, and he's got to figure it out and get the project back on schedule. And you know what? That's what we're sort of all seeing. We're all waiting to see if he can do. And the administration will give him time. And we should mention that the president is behind him, the chancellor's behind him, the board of regents chairman is behind him, and the AD's behind him. The necessary people are behind him. So he's going to get time. But we got to, even Frost will tell you, at some point you have to start getting very tangible results.
Okay, a couple, Jack and Lucas have similar sentiments. Jack says, am I the only one who thinks Nebraska will hold up well against Iowa's run game? And Lucas says, I fooled myself into feeling a Husker win on Friday. I think Adrian starts and plays well. I feel like they should really move Luke to more of a utility type role. Yeah,
Parker, I think, in my mind, they should go back to Adrian and have Luke be prominent in the offense, just like, similar to Ohio State.
Yeah.
I'm interested in what you think about this, Parker. Okay, now the first comment was Nebraska. He thinks Nebraska could hold up well against the run. It's possible. Now Colin Miller's not going to be part of that.
Yeah.
And I don't know I know this. If I were Iowa, I would test Reimer. If it's Reimer that's starting at inside linebacker alongside Will Honus, I'm testing him because he's not very big. I'm not saying Reimer's not a good player. He showed against Northwestern that he can be a good Big Ten player, but he's not a big inside linebacker.
Yeah.
They list him at 220. I don't even believe he's 220. He might be, but that's at 220. You're not very big.
Right.
So I would test him. I would really test him.
I think, it's no secret. They're going to test the edges quickly. And
that's what they do.
Right? Yeah. And the thing that is going to be interesting is I think Nebraska is in some ways better equipped to hold up against that this year than they have been in years past. For as good of players as Khalil and Carlos Davis were, you just have more length and more leverage with guys like Stilley and Ty Robinson and even Casey Rogers. Yeah. But Iowa's tackles are good now. That's a good offensive line. Linderblom, their center's really good. Alaric Jackson, their left tackle's really good. They've got a veteran group. And so they're going to get tested. And if Casey Rogers and Ty Robinson, a couple young guys, if they can't string those plays out and not get pushed back, all it takes on those stretch plays is getting displaced from the line of scrimmage by 2 yards. And if you get pushed 2 yards up the field, it's over. You've got vertical displacement. You've got the ability for the running back to pick a lane. Now, if you can reset the line of scrimmage a yard the other way, now you're in good shape because that running back can't just keep probing out and out and out. So it's really a physical test for Nebraska. It's one, Jack, that I think that they're better equipped to handle, and they know what's coming. And I guarantee they've just been working on that stuff over and over and over again. But whether they're actually ready to handle that 50 times or whatever, we're going to find out. Patrick, let's give some props to a Husker basketball W today.
Yep. Good W, good start. But like Baz said, they'll face a team more their size. I'm speaking figuratively, I guess literally too. Tomorrow, Parker, at 1:00, Nevada. Yep. Nevada. BTN, 1:00.
David asks, does Frost consult regularly with Tom Osborne? I think the answer to that question is yes.
Yeah. Parker, I wouldn't say it's a resounding yes. I don't know that for sure. That's a good, that's a real good question. Probably a question we need to revisit.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know for sure Osborne was around quite a bit the first 2 years at practice and stuff like that. Obviously, that is different this year. They don't just have people from outside the program to the extent that Tom is outside the program. Just like around the football offices this year that they might have had in years past, obviously because of the pandemic. So maybe I shouldn't be so categorical about that. Matt brings up an interesting point. These are related. Jeff says Nebraska's played 3 straight halves of bad football. I would agree with that.
3 straight halves. Break that down, Parker.
Second half of Penn State, and then both halves against Illinois.
Yeah, hey, thank you. That's a good reminder.
And Matt has a good point too. Nebraska's played well defensively and on special teams at times this year, but hasn't played well offensively even once through 4 games.
Wouldn't you say maybe the first 25 minutes against Ohio State wasn't too bad?
Yeah, no, I would say that. I would say that. But I also think that if you take the first half against Ohio State and the first half against Northwestern, that's the best they've played offensively, and they missed a ton of opportunities in both situations. So,
good point.
Good
point.
I think maybe the best they've looked offensively was against Northwestern in the first half, and they came out of it with only 13 points when they had a chance to, have 30 or something like that. And not only that, but 7 of those were set up by Miles Farmer, interception down to the 3.
Yeah, I hope the fans understand how much I get out of this stuff. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, these questions really help me think this stuff through. That's a good point.
Put it this way. So in terms of scoring offense, Nebraska is second to last in the Big Ten, 20.8 points per game. So less than 21 a game. They've scored 83 points so far this year. And of those 83, they've had a pick 6. So that's 7. They've had 2 interceptions that have lined them up inside the 10-yard line that turned into 10 points, should have been 14, dropped touchdown on one of them. So 3 turnovers have turned directly into 17 of those 83 points. So what is that? I'm not a math major, but that's like 20% of their scoring this year.
Yeah, good point.
It's really been a struggle. They haven't scored more than 2 offensive touchdowns in a game like this year, I don't think. So, let's see. Adam, never thought I would ever see Nebraska this bad and not able to win a game in my lifetime against a weak opponent.
Yeah, I mean, part of the interesting element of the Illinois game was, like, Parker, the thing I have to guard against is overreacting. We all have to guard against overreacting. I don't think we've overreacted because Illinois, how thorough Illinois was in winning that game. They controlled Nebraska throughout, starting with a bad call. But here's the deal.
Couple of them, but yes, thoroughly.
Nobody. If someone would have said to you, Illinois is going to control that game, you would have said, what are you talking? There's no way they're going to control that game.
Yeah.
And they did. So that's why we're all a little kind of bewildered, set back, kind of wondering where all this is right now.
Yep. A couple more. Thank you guys for all the questions. We're not going to be able to get to nearly all of them, but we appreciate all the insight. Let's see. Ryan says, Scott Frost said, we know our system works quite a bit in his first 2 years. I haven't heard him say that recently. Do you think he's questioning whether his offense can, in fact, work in the Big Ten? Ryan, I don't really think so. It's a fair question because of the scoring issues this year, but he has said stuff like that before. This year, he's talked quite a bit about it, and Matt Lubick's talked about it too. I mean, Frost talked about the caliber of quarterbacks that they've had in the system this week, and Lubick has talked about the importance of the zone run game in this offense and sort of the hallmarks of this offense this week. So you still hear that, but of course, when you're struggling to score like Nebraska is, you hear it, a little bit less. Rodrigo, thanks for chiming in from Chile, right? Says last week was just an accident. Navy Thomas, what's up on YouTube, says, will the 3-4 defense end ever? They don't really, they run maybe half 3-4 at this point, and the other half time they're in four down. Play a lot of basically what amounts to 2-5, technically, 2 interior defensive linemen and then outside linebackers with a hand in the dirt. But that's an even look. It's basically a 4-3 defense. So one thing that's been really interesting, and that people were sort of starting to talk about in a positive term after the Penn State game, was the versatility and all of the different looks that Nebraska's given on the front 7. Then that all sort of criticism came back after last week, obviously. But one thing I'm interested in about the ability to handle Iowa's run game is how Eric Chenander sort of dishes out different looks. They're going to have to do different things. They're going to have to try to keep Iowa's offensive line off balance. And I think being in and out of that 4 down, 3 down, odd even, over, 2-5, whatever, all that different stuff, they're going to have to sort of throw the kitchen sink at it. the first 3 weeks, they did a pretty good job of mixing and matching and getting production out of that. Last week, they definitely did not. So how that works will go a long way to determine. That's probably a little bit in the weeds, but
no, a little bit, not bad. I mean, from a layman's standpoint, the thing to know about Iowa, and Iowa's not, Iowa's ranked 24th. That's what they are. In the first college football playoff poll, Iowa's 3-2 and ranked 24th. I'm not going to make them something they're not. But the one thing that you have to know about Iowa is they can run the ball, but they're not a one-trick pony. They have a very good tight end and the best group of receivers that Ferentz has had there in a long time. Mm-hmm. And that guy, he doesn't throw a real good deep ball, Spencer Petras is his name. But he does whip the ball really well on intermediate and short routes. I mean, he's a passer. He's only completing 55%. He's young. He's a sophomore. He's going to get better. But what I'm saying, Parker, is they're balanced. It's a balanced attack.
You know what the most amazing thing about this year in the Big Ten West is so far? You know how people they take Ohio State and they're like, we do this sometimes. We're not immune to it. You say outside of Ohio State, that's Northwestern this year.
Yeah.
Spencer Petras has thrown 4 interceptions this year. So on the surface, you're like, oh, maybe you can get to him. 3 of them came against Northwestern. Wisconsin's quarterback, Graham Mertz, has thrown 3 interceptions this year. They all came against Northwestern. and Adrian Martinez got benched for the way he played against Northwestern.
Yeah.
But they've just done that.
Had a profound impact.
Yeah. They've wrecked the quarterback play in the division, basically.
Good defense. They're good defense.
Yeah. Mertz and Petras have been fine besides how they've played against Northwestern. And Martinez, we haven't hardly seen him since Northwestern did what they did to him. So
I thought Parker, all that conversation after the Northwestern game about Nebraska's red zone struggles, some of it just came down to they were playing a really good defense.
Yeah, I know. They're extremely good.
Yeah.
When Wisconsin played them on Saturday, and I think I told you this, Wisconsin was 3 of 16 on third down.
3 of 16 on third down against Northwestern.
Yeah, Northwestern was 2 of 15.
And we always say, they got really good linebackers. It's not just that. They're a little better up front, I think, than people thought they would be. And in the back end, they got a really good corner and a really good safety named Brandon Joseph. I mean, they're good on all 3 levels. I mean, we don't have to sell them anymore. Northwestern's 5-0, and the games they have left are Michigan State, Minnesota, and Illinois. I mean, they're going to be favored. I don't know, prohibitive favored against Minnesota, but they're favored to go 8-0 into Indy.
And if they do, they're going to be playing Ohio State for a trip to the playoff, which is sweet because they're ranked number 8 right now. One more, Michael and Kent, I see your questions about offensive philosophy in general. It's not just one thing, I think is the bottom line there. And then we'll end on this similar. Kyle says, are we trying to do too much schematic wise on both sides of the ball that isn't just letting guys play?
I think it's a valid question, mainly on offense. I don't know enough about defense to comment on that, but I'd say on offense, it's a concern of mine as I watch it. I never quite understand what they're trying to get done. It doesn't seem like there's a theme, Right. With Iowa, there's a clear theme, right? They're going to run those stretch plays, and then they're going to run play action off of it, and that what it is. With Nebraska, I can never really figure out what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I think the simplest answer, Kyle, is that both Scott Frost and Matt Lubick this week talked about simplifying. So there you go. I mean, to me, I think, yeah. So it'll be interesting to see sort of what they try to get done and how they try to get it done against Iowa. We're going to call it there. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you to Tom Dinsdale Hyundai of Grand Island for sponsoring this Facebook Live. Our podcast is literally going up soon. We just did that before we did this. It's a Wednesday full of content. We've got basketball coverage from Chris Basnet from Nebraska's win today. They play again tomorrow and on Saturday. Got football in between. There's all kinds of Nebraska athletics content at huskerextra.com. So check there for all the latest. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on Friday from Iowa City.